All right, everybody, it is time to break down this Los Angeles Chargers New Orleans Saints game with what each team needs to do to get a win. We are proudly presented by our friends over at PrizePicks, as we are every crossover Thursday. Head over, download the PrizePicks app, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. David, let's start off with the home team here when it comes to the Chargers. What are the things that you feel they need to do to get a win in this game?
So yeah, three things that the Chargers absolutely must do if they want to win this football game, starting with the first is avoid the boneheaded mistakes. Then they have to get back to winning in the trenches, and the tackling and the angles have to be better. So avoiding the boneheaded mistakes is really stemming back from the Chargers' loss to the Arizona Cardinals. They fumbled inside the 5-yard line out after a big pass play to Jalen Reagor. He gets stripped. The ball goes into the end zone, and then they lose possession after a very, very promising drive. And then they get an interception by a big man. The defensive lineman, Tierre Tart, is able to get a kind of tip pass from Kyler Murray, and then is immediately stripped and then loses the ball and goes right back to the Arizona Cardinals. And then towards the end of the game, rookie cornerback Cam Hart, who has played exceptionally well, being thrust into duty, got a unnecessary roughness penalty on Marvin Harrison Jr. towards the end of that game that really put them in position to be able to glide down the field very effortlessly and score that game-winning field goal. And then get back to winning in the trenches. I talked about it earlier. The Chargers have been very boom or bust when running the ball, but it's also the run defense, which up to this point, at least up to the Arizona Cardinals game, the run defense has been very, very good. I mean, the overall, defense for the Chargers has been fantastic this year under Jesse Minter. But last week, they got bullied. They gave up 181 rushing yards and 6.2 yards per carry, and the Chargers can't allow that. They got to get back to dominating on both sides in the trenches. They have to stop the run, and they have to run the football at a much higher clip. They got to get J.K. Dobbins involved. He's got to get consistent carries, and they have to set themselves up in more manageable down and distance situations. And then the tackling and angles have to be much, much better. Especially when you're going up against Kyler Murray, a running quarterback. He's a guy that destroys angles, and if you don't have the right angle on him, then you get exposed. That's what happened to linebacker Junior Colson. Unfortunately, he was out there on the edge, and Kyler Murray was waving bye-bye, basically, while he was running past him en route to the end zone. So the Chargers have to tackle better, which, normally they swarm to the football, and it's never just one hat. It's multiple hats to the ball. They have to get back to that philosophy if they want to get back into the win column against the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I think some of those are pretty big for New Orleans as well. We talked about the importance of tackling earlier on. I think both these teams are looking at that over the defensive side. I think for me, the thing that it starts off with is the number one key is protecting Spencer Rattler, but disrupting Justin Herbert. Then I would probably look at the run game, getting the run game back going, and kind of playing keep away a little bit, especially with the sort of dedication to the run game that Los Angeles has. They would have the ability to control this game if they're able to start producing on the ground while also being committed to it. So you want to kind of keep the ball out of their hands in order to make sure that that's not happening. And then the other piece is going to be kind of not necessarily the stop contributing to the other team more than you contribute to yourself, right? It's like the self-inflicted wounds thing that you kind of described earlier. Saints have had their own kind of fair share of that. And I think in order for them to do that, they most effectively, they need to reopen sort of the explosive area of their offense. If they can get back to that, then I think that it allows them to maybe be able to play with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more swagger, all that, especially with a rookie quarterback there. You want to build that confidence as best as you can. And you can build that confidence through the quick, easy passes. But the way that the Saints have gone, 32-yard pass to open up his very first NFL pass off of play action, 27-yard pass to a tight end last week. I believe it was Foster Moreau this past week, Juwan Johnson the week before that, both the tight ends getting involved off the play action, very first play of each of those games. So Saints have not been afraid to push with that. But a lot of that comes down and comes back to that very first thing about protecting Spencer Rattler, 33.3% completion percentage and a 42.1 passer rating when under pressure so far this season. Those are not great numbers. Now, obviously, being good against pressure is unsustainable. It's not a consistent enough thing for you to hang a hat on. So you got to keep them clean no matter what, right? You don't want a quarterback that only plays well under pressure because there's no guarantee that that's going to happen.
And it means they're constantly under pressure, which is not good.
Right, exactly. And so you want to make sure you're cleaning that up. So the Saints maybe getting a little bit of their health back on the offensive line can help them with that. But at the same time, you want to disrupt and get after Justin Herbert as much as you can, because he has struggled a bit under pressure so far this season as well. So do you have the ability to be able to kind of make things tough for him? 52.1% completion percentage, 62.1 passer rating there. Not the same as what we've seen with Spencer Rattler, but Spencer Rattler is also a rookie quarterback, so you would expect those numbers to be worse. So if you can get after Justin Herbert, keep Spencer Rattler clean, I think that ends up kind of moving the needle for you. Get Alvin Kamara and his. Oh, go ahead. You were going to add
I
something.
was just going to say, I mean, for Spencer Rattler and the offensive line, they're probably getting Chris Olave back, and obviously Chris Olave is a big downfield threat. And so if they are able to protect, then they can possibly get the ball in the waiting hands of Chris Olave and that offense.
Exactly right. So I'll jump to my third one, which was the explosive plays. Chris Olave has got to be a big part of that, right? I mean, the biggest days that he's had so far this season have been 86 yards, 87 yards, things like that. He hasn't had that century mark game yet. And of course, he missed the last couple effectively because he ended up having to leave the game 2 plays in 2 weeks ago with a concussion against the Bucks, and then missed the tight Thursday night turnaround to the Denver Broncos after that. So now you get him back, hopefully, right? That's the expectation at least. And then he has to be a big part of that. Maybe Marquez Valdez-Scantling is able to contribute to that as well. But you really want Chris Olave to be that guy, about half the percent of drops in his career, things like that. You really want Chris Olave to be that guy. And then getting the run game going on the offensive side, just look, nothing helps your quarterback than having a good defense and a good run game, just like we talked about with Greg Roman and just like we talked about with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. You definitely want that to get going. New offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, Clint Kubiak. He loves to establish the run game first and then be able to build off of that. When the Saints have not been able to establish their run game, they have not been able to build anything elsewhere. They have no second punch so far this season. So they've got to be able to get that run game going to be able to support.
And I'm going to tell you right now, when Alvin Kamara is at his best, he is one of the most frustrating running backs in the league to have to tackle and to have to defend, because it looks like he's just walking
literally
at a nice brisk little, the Olympic speed when they're doing their speed walking. And yet he's not. He's running extremely fast, but he allows that patience to set up blocks, which allows him to get those explosive plays, which is a nightmare for any defense, especially a Chargers defense that, has been very good, but has given up a couple of explosive plays. So they just have to try to control and bottle up Alvin Kamara, which is obviously much easier said than done.
The run game, the quarterback, the explosive plays, the pass rush, the tackling, it's all here in this matchup. The coaching, it's all here in this matchup, or at least the coaching under a magnifying glass for the New Orleans Saints. But still, it's all in this matchup. I cannot wait for this one, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. We'll see which one of these teams ends up coming out on top and maybe riding the ship a bit for the season. It's an important game for both teams. I wouldn't say must win, but certainly an important game for most of these teams.